Welcome to Black Health, a weekly talk show discussing medical issues afflicting and impacting the Black South Florida community. Now introducing our host, Dr. Michelle Kirwan Blackwood.
Good day, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Black Health, brought to you by the Health Foundation of South Florida. Black Health is a show addressing health issues impacting the Black community. Today, we are talking about Emotional Wellness Month, and we have brought back psychiatrist Dr. Delvena Thomas to do so. Dr. Delvena Thomas, welcome back to Black Health.
Hey, thank you. Thanks for having me back.
Absolutely. Always a pleasure. I'm going to take a moment to introduce you. Dr. Delvena Thomas is a board-certified psychiatrist, mother, soldier, scientist, and advocate. She trained in medicine and psychiatry at the University of Maryland in Baltimore. She is board-certified in psychiatry and neurology and maintains a private practice in psychotherapy, psychopharmacology, and alternative health. She is the author and producer of her own podcast, the Brain Love Podcast. You can find her latest mental health books on Amazon, Brain Sleep and Brain Food. And she is also co-host of Miami Media Group's show called Soul. You are a busy woman, Dr. Delvena, for sure.
That would absolutely be true.
So we're talking about Emotional Wellness Month. What is emotional wellness and why is it important for overall health?
Yeah, so, Michelle, emotional wellness is more important than our IQ. It's more important than intelligence because not being able to manage your emotions in a situation or the heat of the moment can actually destroy a person's life. So, emotional intelligence is the ability to perceive, interpret, demonstrate, control, evaluate, and use emotions to communicate with and relate to others effectively and constructively. One of the things I'll add is a statement that we hear quite often, quote, the angry Black woman, close quote. And the reason why I wanted to make that statement is because of this. It's not because of a Black woman not being able to manage her emotions properly. It's because of people who are on the receiving end not being able to perceive her emotions correctly. So emotional intelligence is not just about what you see people do or how you see someone express themselves. It's also about people perceive the emotion. So if there's a misperception, that can also interfere with the comprehension or understanding a situation. So emotional intelligence has four different levels of emotion. So it's perceiving emotions, it's reasoning with emotions, it's understanding emotions, and managing emotions. So that's why I wanted to mention that common statement of the angry Black woman, because in most scenarios, we are not angry. We are expressing ourselves. We're being factual, straightforward, and we're just giving the truth straightforward without all of the extra fluff. And quite often, in many scenarios, they misinterpret our emotions.
We started off with a bang. How can people differentiate between everyday stress and more serious emotional health issues?
So, everyday stress is our baseline. All of us have stress. So, if you're differentiating between everyday stress and emotional issues, what it feels like is it feels very uncomfortable. So, everyday stress for me, and you have to ask yourself, what do I feel like as I'm maintaining my stress levels and as I'm coping throughout the day? For me, I see stress as a common factor in life. It's something that will never go away. And the reason why stress will never go away is because we have to always deal with the unknown. There's always something unknown. There's always something we cannot control. There's always something happening that we don't anticipate. So that in itself can create stress. Stress is also created by people around us, and especially if those people don't have emotional intelligence, right? And so having emotional, I suppose, outbreaks or having moments of emotional despair, it feels different because it's uncomfortable. It makes you feel sadness. It makes you feel a higher sense of stress. It makes you feel even more uncomfortable, pardon me, than just the everyday stress.
Mm.
So,
What are
so
some?
I'll add I'm sorry, Michelle. I'll just add
No,
that
no,
knowing
go
yourself is imperative in life. You have to know yourself, and we discover ourselves in childhood and adolescence and in adulthood. So being
ahead.
true to yourself and being able to understand who you are, what you're feeling, and what you're going through, which oftentimes these steps that people skip.
Yeah, I think that's very important. And one thing that I've learned as I've gotten older is to say, okay, you're really upset about this right now, and you're about to talk
Mhm.
to this person who maybe triggers you, or maybe you don't care for too much, or you're going into work, or other stressful things might happen, and you take that thing that you're upset about, and now you're up here already, and then it's easier to get to that next level. So I've learned to say, okay, you're really upset right now, and you need to remember that going into today, like going into any conversations or anything that might happen, because you're a little more apt to get upset faster, whereas you normally wouldn't. So I think that's a very important thing that people need to, to keep in mind, exactly what you're saying. What are some of the
Yeah, and
common
you
myths?
just
Go ahead.
sorry. I just
No, we're
wanted to
good.
say that you just expressed self-awareness, and that's another piece to emotional intelligence is being self-aware, having greater self-awareness. Emotionally intelligent people are not only good at thinking about how other people feel, but they're also adaptive at understanding their own feelings. So self-awareness is also something that's essential when managing your emotions. So I'm glad that you actually that you teased that out.
Mhm. I try. May not work on every day, but I do try. All right, you ready for the next
Hmm.
question? What are some
I
of the
am.
common myths about emotional wellness that you would like to maybe debunk?
I think the first myth is that complete expression of self is healthy. That is a myth.
Yeah.
You cannot completely express yourself. Emotional intelligence is about reading the room, reading
Mhm.
the folks you're communicating with, and being able to stop, think, and mull over what you're feeling before you express yourself. So I think that's a
Mhm.
common myth that, oh, just express yourself. Now, and here's the caveat. My brain love acronym, the E in love stands for express yourself. Now, it's an acronym, and express yourself means, yeah, express yourself, but you have to express yourself in a certain fashion. You have to express
Mhm.
yourself in a certain way. It's not acceptable to just express yourself in any way that you choose in that situation. It may not be appropriate. So, I think the first myth that we have to debunk is that fully expressing yourself is okay. It's not.
Mhm.
So you have to read the room, you have to know your audience, and you also need to filter what you're feeling before you say it. I think the other myth that I would like to debunk is that it's okay to be angry. Emotional intelligence is about allowing yourself to feel things, but it's also about what you do with what you're feeling. So, anger is a very negative emotion. It's a negative emotion because it has so many negative consequences. There's so many repercussions when we're angry and we're not in control of that anger. So you have to be able to redirect your emotions to make it a more positive circumstance or a more positive situation for you. So those are the two myths that I'd like to debunk. I used to tell my son when he was younger that anger is just not an emotion we should dwell
That we should dwell on.
that we should not dwell in. We should not allow
Okay.
ourselves to dwell in anger. And
Mhm.
practice makes perfect. I know people say it's hard to do, but the more you practice changing something, it becomes second nature for you. And unfortunately, in some households, it's acceptable to be angry, to shout and yell and throw things and curse, and
Mhm.
it teaches the child maladaptive ways to deal with life and to deal with stress.
Yeah, I see that a lot in some of my families as a pediatrician. That the parents, that their norm is to yell at the child, and that their norm is to say, oh, you don't be stupid, or it's just. really harsh wording. And I remember somebody said years ago, I think it was on a show I was
Mm.
watching, that your face should light up when your child walks in the room. That you should be happy when your child walks in the room. And when I see some of these other behaviors, it makes me think of that. And it makes me think of how, your face is not lighting up. And I mean, obviously it's not going to light up every time your child walks in the room. If they're acting out, it's not going to light up, but just that perception, just that theme. Dr. Delvena, we do need to take a quick commercial break. You are watching Black Health, brought to you by the Health Foundation of South Florida. And we are talking about Emotional Wellness Month with Dr. Delvena. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
I am Wanda Jenkins, and I am a breast cancer survivor. I didn't feel a lump at all. It was just a routine mammogram. It's so true. If you don't go, you're not gonna know. I was just like, no, I gotta beat this thing. I'm winning, and then I'm gonna someday tell my story, and here I am. The doctors and the nurses at Baptist Health Cancer Care, they're going to be there with you and for you 100%.
I grew up down here in South Florida, so for me, it's a little bit more personal.
For the Mesman & Dover Law Firm, it's about community.
For us, South Florida's our home. You all are our people.
Our family, our future.
The difference we'll make for you, your loved ones, your kids, matters, because to us, it's personal.
If you need us, call us 24/7 at 866-954-MORE.
That's 866-954-6673. The Mesman & Dover Law Firm, youraccidentattorneys.com.
We're made, surrounded, and thrown into it, fed, energized, and supported by it. Water makes everything possible, from the very firsts to the everyday, during the make or breaks, or after lazy days, for the dreams come true, and everything in between. Because water is life.
Welcome back to Black Health. We are talking to Dr. Delvena Thomas, board certified psychiatrist, and we are talking about emotional wellness. What are some practical steps that people can take to improve their emotional wellness on a daily basis? Things like sleep, diet, exercise, anything else that you want to throw in there?
Yeah, we know all those things. We know the basics of mental health, of being mentally well. Sleep, exercise, a good diet, but also some things that people have to remember is you want to be open and receptive to criticism and responsibility. So I'll use my son again as an example. I would teach him when I'm still raising him. He's still in his 20s, but when he was much younger and something happened and he was a factor in that situation, I taught him to accept responsibility, not to reject, not to say it's not his fault, but accept responsibility. And when we're able to accept responsibility as criticism, I feel it makes us a much more rounded person. It makes us a fairer person. It also allows us to exercise more empathy, as well as passion for the other person and consideration for the other person, and accepting that I am a part of the situation. In couples therapy, I tell couples all the time, the situation that you have in the marriage is not a one person situation. It involves both of you. So it's both of your responsibilities. You're both at fault for whatever it is that's happening. Um, Also, being able to move on after making a mistake. So forgiving yourself, taking ownership, and moving on, and just learning from that. Being able to say no in situations. That's a big part of learning emotional intelligence. Being able to say no. Saying yes is too easy. But saying no, you're allowing yourself to set boundaries. You're pushing those boundaries out to other people. You're forcing them to accept your boundaries. So in that, there's a whole exchange of emotions. Sometimes there's a lot of disappointment from the folks you're saying no to, but being able to manage that creates more emotional intelligence on that person's behalf. So that is a big deal too. People don't know how to say no, being able to solve problems in ways that works for everyone. So trying to solve a problem that makes people feel that like they're a part of the solution. It makes people feel like they're gaining something. They may be losing something, but making people like they're gaining something in the solution is a big deal. So everyone wants to feel like they're winning in a situation where there's a problem and you're trying to solve that for all parties. I mentioned having empathy for others, having great listening skills. Let me emphasize great listening skills. Oftentimes people listen, respond as opposed to listening to understand. So having great listening skills, knowing why you do the things that you do, knowing your why, and also being judgmental of others. Those are some of the ways we can start by building our emotional quotient or our EQ.
Yeah, you said a lot of great things there. Some of those things really resonated, and especially when you talked about couples, you're both at fault. And I think people really need to remember, even at not a couple, just a friendship or even a work relationship. There's your version, their version, and then there's the truth. And I think people
Yeah.
really need to be open to hearing. One thing I've noticed more and more is that people are not open to feedback, to constructive, criticism. It's really getting, as a manager, it's getting really hard for me to figure out how to give people that that feedback because people don't want to take responsibility. I think parents need to really do as you did and teach their children that they have to take responsibility, that they have to accept that feedback, learn from it, course correct and do better. And like you said, give yourself grace and move on from that.
Yeah.
How can
Yeah.
people balance emotional wellness with the demands of work and family and life in general?
Oh, wow, that's a great question. Hmm. How
Life
can
comes
so
at you so many different ways, and you have so many different
yeah,
things going on, and sometimes everything happens at the same time. Your house is falling apart, things are going on at work, your relationship is taking a left. So how do
mhm.
you maintain emotional wellness in the midst of that?
I think one of the things you said, having grace, that's number one. Having grace, always just having grace. Having gratitude through all of the situations, being thankful that you have these situations, right? Because you have these situations because of the roles that you play. Either the roles you play at work, which is why you have responsibility, or the roles you play in your family's life, or the role in your household, and also having empathy. Empathy is a huge deal in life. Being able to understand another person's situation, empathy will help us get through a lot of challenging situations. So having grace, having empathy, and forgiveness. I would add that forgiveness is huge. I just, told it yesterday. You have to be able to forgive yourself, and you have to be able to forgive others. And he said to me, "I've never forgiven anyone." And I told him that's a huge problem. If you're a Christian, you believe that if we don't forgive others, the Lord won't forgive us. So
Mhm.
life is about reciprocity. And when you think about it in those terms, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, you want to forgive others so that you can be forgiven, because as human beings, we are not perfect. We all make mistakes. So I would say grace, empathy, and forgiveness will get us through a lot of these strenuous situations and challenging scenarios.
Yeah, that makes me sad when I hear people say that they cannot forgive somebody because to me, you are the one that is hurting. You are maintaining that pain, and that person may be going on about their life, not even thinking about you, and you're holding that hurt. It really just hurts you and not them.
Yeah.
So it's not an easy thing to do, but it is something I think that is necessary.
Yeah.
How do things like relaxation techniques or mindfulness or sleep, diet, exercise, how do these things play into managing one's emotional wellness?
Well, they help you to feel more relaxed. They help you to be more tranquil. Exercising, we know, helps to keep our blood pressure lower, our heart rate lower. It also boosts our endorphins, our feel good chemicals, the neurotransmitters in the brain, like the dopamine and the serotonin. So, having those things around creates a sense of relaxation and fulfillment and contentment. And feeling content starting a feeling content can manifest in very positive ways. Imagine when we wake up and we're having a bad day. And for me, I'll just say this as sidebar. When I wake up, I'm happy to be alive, and so it's not a bad day. Whatever happened yesterday, it ended yesterday, and I'm starting the new day. And it gives me an opportunity to try to, if the problem from the day before is carrying over, it gives me an opportunity to try to do something different. And I also believe in energy. And I believe in a spiritual realm in our world. So sometimes the day before may be different because of more tangible factors, but because of other outside factors like the energy, things can change the next day. So maybe the energy is different. So it creates a more promising situation. So start the day believing that this is a good day, I'm alive, I'm well, the Lord awakened me, creates a good day for you. So, and you know what, Michelle, I just distracted myself. What was the original question?
Well, that's a perfect pause because we do actually need to take another commercial break. So I'm glad you forgot
Started
your question in the moment. No worries. We will be right back with more Black Health brought to you by the Health Foundation of South Florida. We are talking to psychiatrist Dr. Delvena Thomas about Emotional Wellness Month. We'll be right back.
I am Wanda Jenkins, and I am a breast cancer survivor. I didn't feel a lump at all. It was just a routine mammogram. It's so true. If you don't go, you're not gonna know. I was just like, no, I gotta beat this thing. I'm winning, and then I'm gonna someday tell my story, and here I am. The doctors and the nurses at Baptist Health Cancer Care, they're going to be there with you and for you 100%.
Grew up down here in South Florida, so for me, it's a little bit more personal.
For the Mesman and Dover Law Firm, it's about community.
For us, South Florida's our home. You all are our people.
Our family, our future.
The difference we'll make for you, your loved ones, your kids, matters, because to us, it's personal.
If you need us, call us 24/7 at 866-954-MORE.
That's 866-954-6673. The Mesman and Dover Law Firm, youraccidentattorneys.com.
We're made, surrounded, and thrown into it, fed, energized, and supported by it. Water makes everything possible, from the very firsts to the everyday, during the make or breaks, or after lazy days, for the dreams come true, and everything in between. Because water is life.
Welcome back to Black Health. We are talking about emotional wellness with Dr. Delvena, who cannot remember the last question, but that's okay, Dr. Delvena. I think you actually covered it. It was sleep and diet and exercise and so on. And we only have a few minutes left, so I actually would like to cover a few other things. What are there warning signs that indicate emotional wellness is at risk of deteriorating? And if that's the case, when does somebody consider seeking professional help for emotional challenges?
Yeah, I think we know when our emotional intelligence is challenged. For some people, it's been a challenge for them most of their lives because, this is not something you're born to know. It's something that has to be developed. And most of our development begins in the household. So, again, I mentioned earlier, if you have parents who are not managing stress very well, and they're allowing themselves to use what we call immature defense mechanisms to deal with problems, then you won't develop emotional intelligence. For some people, they don't develop it until they're in the workforce, until someone helps to guide them and mentor them, like what you're doing with your staff when you do their evaluations and things. So, when you're being stressed or your emotional wellness is challenged because things no longer feel comfortable to you. You may not be able to operate under stress well the same way that you once did in the past. Maybe you're yelling. Maybe you yell once or twice, but that's not usually your MO. Maybe you want to use profanity when that's really not your MO. you actually usually perform well under pressure, but you're finding that to be a challenge for you. So I would say starting there and identifying early these signs will prevent certain things from happening, such as the decline in relationships. Because if you don't do something about the early signs, then it leads to additional problems. And those additional problems could be write ups at work because of something you say or something you do in a meeting, or when you're having a one on one with a supervisor or something, or because of how you manage with a peer or a coworker. You also don't want these early signs to manifest into a relationship challenge with a loved one or member that leads to you guys um, deciding to walk away from the relationship, whatever that relationship may be. And so I think identifying those early signs, not allowing these things to progress into more detrimental situations would be important. And seeking a therapist would be very helpful, because maybe the person just needs to talk and process, and that'll help them to feel a lot better. I know a lot of us want to talk and process with our friends, but our friends are biased because most people don't want to say the hard things. Most people don't want to tell their friend the truth. Like, well, girl, sometimes you are a bit unreasonable because if the other person doesn't have that emotional intelligence, they're
Mhm.
not going to receive that well. They'll see it as an attack. And a lot of people are defensive.
It doesn't always require medication. I think a lot of people are afraid of going to the psychiatrist. They think they're going to end up on a little pill. Mm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dr. Delvena, thank you so much for joining us again on Black Health. Black Health is brought to you by the Health Foundation of South Florida. Dr. Delvena, where can people find you if they want to reach out?
Sure, 305-981-1700. And also if you Google Dr. Delvena Thomas, you'll see my website and also the website for the office.
And I am Dr. Michelle Kirwan Bythewood, and you can follow me on Black Health Show on IG. And we will see you next time on Black Health. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.